Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode, Big Bag Productions. I'm here, Ryan Huncho, your host, and I'm here today with Mike Moreau, and I'm very excited to introduce you guys to Mike. Me and Mike, we met at a event actually fairly recently, and yeah, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of what you do?
Yeah, you betcha. Well, I guess first off, thanks Ryan for having me. Always a pleasure, and it was a pleasure meeting you in Edmonton. This was what 2, 3 weeks ago now
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. From Calgary, born and raised in Ontario. Moved out here about '07, and yeah, haven't looked back. Got into real estate. Primarily for the reason that I knew there was more than just exchanging time for money. Uh, One of my colleagues who seemed to be doing pretty well with investing had kind of recommended a few different books, and Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of them. And for those who know me, I'm not much of a reader, never was. Had my mom read a lot of my books back in high school because I was playing a lot of hockey. It was gone most of the time. So nonetheless, yeah, picked up the book, and it opened my mind to a bunch of different things, and really inspired me and intrigued me to kind of dive into investing in myself first and foremost, and using real estate as my vehicle. So yeah, today, I'm sit here in Calgary. We have investments in Alberta, in Calgary, in Edmonton. We have some in Ontario. We've been doing some self-directed RSP lending on some flip projects in Manitoba. But my primary focus in Alberta has been secondary suites. Most people that I talk to tend to maybe be breaking even, maybe bleeding money, and some of them are okay with that. And by all means, whatever your goals are,
Right.
to each their own, right? But me, the way I've been trained and the way I run our business is every investment property is basically ran from a profit loss standpoint. So to me, if it's not cash flowing, personally, it's not a viable business, right? So, and many are like, how do you find cash flowing properties out there? And it can be challenging if you're looking at a single family home that doesn't have multiple streams of income. Right. So, after much research, networking with individuals, analyzing properties, it was time to take some action. What I did find was, that these secondary suites were where the positive cash flow sort of investments come from. I've personally invest in the areas that some people don't like to invest in. They're not the high end places, and that comes with different tenant profiles. But I guess it boils down to what your comfort level is, right? So I primarily will look at distressed properties. For one, it allows myself, our investors, to be able to pull out some equity, after we renovate it. So we use the BRRRR process with a lot of our investments here. And we've been JVing, because us at Concord Capital Partners, that's our company, we have been JVing and doing a lot of what we do without our own money. So we've been partnering with money partners, mortgage holders to be able to build our profile in our portfolio and help others make the money work for them. So we've been successful in that. And I'll admit, the first one that we did on our own, was a little scary. My first investor was actually an old colleague of mine who became a good friend. He just seen what we were doing, we were doing a lot of training, a lot of educational stuff. And we had an investment property out of town, because our first thing was like, we wanted to do it in our backyard, but an opportunity came up in Ontario that we jumped on. And it was a rent to own. But we had a managing partner out there to kind of help marry our learning and the action together to understand what happens behind the scenes. So I think it's one thing to learn the strategy, but it's another thing to apply it and see what what happens, right? But yeah, it was our first investment property in Calgary that we were managing. It's not your typical go look at your primary residence where you're looking for your forever home or what have you. We were walking into a bit of a dungeon, and but the numbers made sense. And my mentor always told me, trust the process, trust your numbers. And if the numbers make sense and it's cash flow positive and you're comfortable with it from, a conservative standpoint, put an offer on it. And so we did that, and lo and behold, offer was accepted. And, it was, as a new investor at the time, you're walking into it. It's kind of the little person beside you saying, are you sure you want to do this? Is this the right thing? Because I walked in, I'm like, holy, and excuse my French, I was like, holy crap, like this is not a nice place at all. And I don't even know if I want to show my money partner the photos or what I'm looking at. So, but I was, my numbers, I ran them and I was confident with my numbers. Wow. But we went through the process and, remove conditions. And I'll admit, when you pick up these distressed properties, your inspections aren't going to come back all fantastic and thumbs up. There's going to be a lot of red in your report, but providing that, there's nothing too serious from a structural standpoint or, high ticket items. And if you have a decent contingency and reserve fund in your pro forma,
right,
if it makes sense, go forward. There's going to be some deficiencies, right? And that's to be expected. But yeah, moving forward, we jumped into it, got it renovated. And as renovations start to progress, and you would know this too, as you see things, start to get executed and built, you see the potential. Yes. And, we turn these, ugly looking homes into livable, safe places for people to live, for them to call home. And, once we started showing, people started coming in. Next thing you know, we were getting applications in and we started doing our due diligence. And once we had it fully tenanted and we saw the cash flow, like my investor was, just thrilled to know that, hey, his money is parked in real estate and making favorable returns in comparison to his GIC account, which was making next to nothing. Yeah. Right. On average, we were doing about $900 to $1,100 a month positive cash flow on these. We do a lot of semi-detached duplexes. Well, but that got, once we did our first one, like most investments, when you see it actually works and you trust, what you've learned and you apply it, it's hard to stop. Right. So then, I was just running numbers and I knew what to look for. Right. Once you do one, I think the biggest fear for myself and most is learning what you learned, but not trusting enough in yourself to go do it. What was very, I guess, instrumental in my learning and my development was the community, right? And I know we kind of touched on that before. You're not alone. You're not on an island. Yeah. I think the biggest thing for, people that don't necessarily put themselves out there, let people know what they're doing, surround themselves with the right people. When you're doing this alone, it can be scary. And I find most people, I've talked to a number of people, no different than you. We network. It's, as they say, your network's your net worth. I've chatted with people that have ran numbers for years. I was on a call with someone just a couple of weeks ago, and they've been running numbers, I think, for the last X amount of years, and haven't been able to scale. And I think a part of it is because when you don't know what you don't know, fear kicks in, and you just don't take that leap of faith of being like, what, this will work out. Right. So for me, even throughout the process, my mentor was, on the sidelines for any questions I had, to keep on pushing me. He's like, Mike, this will work, just trust it, right? Providing the places and, it's structurally sound and everything's there. He's like, you've got your contractor quotes, what the rental rates are going to be because you've been, you've analyzed the market on Rent Faster and various platforms. you know what kind of revenue it's going to generate. He's like, don't back out. Cause part of me was, is this the right investment? And
Mm,
how do you know when you've never really done it?
right.
Right. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is to get educated, surround yourself with the right people,
Mm,
and don't be afraid to take action. I think, many people think they have to have the stars aligned, and myself included. Yeah, my first deal with that we managed on our own, I had money lined up already.
right.
And then I found the deal, and then we kind of put them together as a joint venture and executed. But then, my mentor was, he's stressed. He's like, if you try to do this every time, especially when you're first starting, he goes, it's going to be challenging because investors want to see results,
Yes.
right? They want to see something tangible. Performers are fine and dandy, but they want to see what do you have. So if you have nothing under contract, they're not going to put their money
Mm,
on anything, right? So anyways, what I've learned was, if the deal's good enough, the money will follow.
yes. Yeah.
So, and that was another hurdle for me, right? Because I think most investors, it's just, you want everything lined up. It's no different than someone going to the gym. You want to be jacked before you get to the gym. Well, how will you get jacked? You got to go to the gym, right? So they
Yeah.
don't work hand in hand. You just got to go do it and progress to where you want to be, right? So start with a goal and, take action.
Yeah. I really agree on that. Like, I kind of want to touch on that aspect because most people watching, they're kind of new to real estate and they don't really understand that, you don't need your own money to be able to start in real estate, right? And a lot of people get that confused. So kind of touch on JV. What does JV mean? How does it come into play? And how are you able to use other people's money to purchase a rental property? Most people, this blows their mind, but like, can you just
Yeah.
touch on
And
that?
I think, and great question. There's a lot of people out there, again, myself included. I was one when I first got into this, knew maybe one realtor,
Mm,
and that was the extent of it. Didn't know anything else, right? So when people, you see the no money down, get into real estate with other people's money, like most, you're like, oh, it's probably a scam. Like this doesn't
yeah.
make sense, right?
Yeah.
JVing, it's as simple as going out there and networking. Myself, I go out there, and whether I'm at a restaurant, whether I'm in the washroom, wherever I am, real estate comes up in one way, shape, or form. Because, money is a topic of conversation. And who out there doesn't want to know how to make the money work for them, whether they have it or not? I thought, when we first jumped into our first seminar and enrolled to invest in ourselves, I was like, how can I even do this? I don't have any money
Yeah.
myself.
Yes.
And I think I told you a bit of my story, and we can get to that after. But yeah, JVing it's just letting people know what you're doing. It's essentially what you're doing is, if you can go out there, understand different strategies, understand how to analyze them, put the deal together with your power team. And power team, for those of you that don't understand, for the newbies out there, it's your mortgage broker, your contractors, your lawyers, your accountants, your realtors, to help you form this together. You don't have to be an expert in all. And that's what I think most people don't understand. They think they need to know it all.
Mm,
You just need to partner with like-minded individuals that are real estate investor focused, right? The JV inside is, I will find a deal with my team, run the numbers, and provide that they work. I go out there and I'll find a money partner. So someone that will put the initial investment together, the renovation costs, the closing costs, the holding costs,
yeah.
everything needed to close a deal. And they will typically, what I'll do, and this can be done many ways, not to confuse it, but typically I'll have a money partner and a mortgage holder. So someone that can go on title.
Yes.
That doesn't always work out. Sometimes people have the money, but they're tapped out for qualifications. So
Yeah.
then we've done three-way joint ventures where we partner up with someone that finds a deal, the management partner. You bring in a money partner that can fund the deal, and then you bring a mortgage holder, someone that has qualification.
Yeah.
So maybe someone that has a good job but doesn't want to be involved in managing it and maybe doesn't have the funds, but like, I have a great job.
Yeah.
Well, you can get into real estate and make some income, a residual income, just by going on title.
Yeah.
Right. So there's many ways. There's folks that vice versa. Maybe they've been doing the real estate game for a bit and they're tapped out. So they can't get any more mortgages. And they want to become, sort of the private lender or a JV partner from just a money perspective and be completely passive. Well, hey, if you have money, whether it's money sitting in your bank account, whether it's a HELOC, so you have equity in your house so you can pull out,
Right.
or a line of credit, whatever it is, you can use a line of credit, you can use credit cards, and that's OPM, right? We'll refer to as OPM, other people's money. You don't need your own money.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to even like my story, when we were looking to get enrolled in the real estate education, the financial education academy, my wife was pregnant, was about to go on mat leave. I had just switched jobs and we were planning a wedding all at the same time. And I'm like, I have one credit card, which was one that had a good, balance transfer. That was all that I had. And I didn't really understand the whole balance transfer at the time, but they told me, you can use this to enroll, to learn, get educated on how to make money, make your money, make money. And sure enough, we swiped that card. And my intention that day was that I was gonna, utilize the 0% balance transfer for the year. And I made it my obligation, my duty to make sure I get that deal within that first year that will help repay the cost of borrowing, because the payment on it was maybe $80 at max, 100. I'm like, you can go do one deal and it will have paid for your education, or at least pay for the payment, the cost of borrowing throughout that. And that's what we did. I'll admit, the drive home after enrolling was a little quiet between my wife and I. Because we're like, we haven't even paid for our wedding yet. And here we just, invested, it was close to $15,000 in our education. But, we look back now, she just resigned from her company, and after being with them for 11 years, and it's allowing her to stay home with the family.
Wow. So in that kind of state of mindset, when you had, between the wedding, your wife was pregnant, between all of that and your decision of, making sure that you and your family are successful and having that residual income coming in, like how were you able to make that mindset shift of like sacrificing the, the pleasure of now versus like putting it into something that will pay back dividends? And how were you able to spot that as well? Did you have a mentor in your life that kind of drifted you toward that direction? Was it more an internal thing, or how was that? How did that
part of it, to be honest, like my father, he's been an entrepreneur. He was self-employed basically almost the day I was born. He was like, I don't want to work on the road anymore. He was working for CP Rail, so he's on the road quite often. He just wanted to be home for us. So he took that leap of faith of buying a small business and growing it, and it allowed us to have a good upbringing. So that's been in my blood from day one. And I knew, I'm the kind of person, if I commit to something, I'm 100% all in, regardless of the setbacks, the downfalls, the what have you. So I made it sort of my sort of duty and my commitment to make this work for her and us. It wasn't easy, I'll admit, because, I was learning a new job that's very high volume. So, I'm busy, and it's hard to, to take some time away to kind of even learn this. The other thing was, we didn't have cash available to do this. And her income was getting slashed in half because she was going on mat leave. And And then we had the wedding, so it was hard to tell even my parents what we were doing because we had asked them for a bit of money for the wedding. So, I couldn't tell them, but it was something that, after reading the book, I knew there's more to life than this. And I was like, do I want to work, slave and depend on a retirement, a pension plan? No, right. And I knew we wanted to grow a family, and we now have 2 boys, so things are even busier. But I just wanted to be able to have more time with them, and to know that, hey, you know what, we're still young, and if we can grow this to a point that we can retire ourselves even earlier, which we've done with Ali, it's allowed her. She helps with the business too, which is awesome. But it's allowed her to stay at home, focus on the kids. And I want to be able to give back to my kids, right? Not hand it over, but be able to educate them on the possibilities, that anything is possible if they put their mind to it, and understand the financial part. Because, I think most people think real estate is, they watch HGTV and they just want to, we're going to buy something, we're going to renovate it to the 9 and hopefully sell it and make a huge profit. That's not the case, right? You got to get educated, and really there's more to it than just that too, right? It's the understanding the taxes, asset protection. There's a lot behind the scenes of running a viable business. So it's not even just learning a strategy, it's learning how to run a business properly.
Yes.
So, my biggest thing is to be able to, my boys are a year and a half and 3, a little too young to educate them on it, but they know revenue minus expenses equals cash flow. And I got my 3-year-old recite it, right? But it's getting them involved in reading, growing, expanding your mindset, surround yourself with the right people. Because I think most people think, oh, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough money, I can't do this.
Right.
I'm an average Joe.
Yeah.
That's a prime example. How far we've gone in a little amount of time to what we have now. Like I said, I didn't have money.
Yep.
Was living way beyond my means, just having fun, enjoying my childhood more or less, even though I was, 25, 26 or whatever at the time. And, but it's set your mind to something, set a goal, which is your target, reverse engineer it backwards. How can you get there? And if you surround yourself with the right people to help you get there, anything's possible. My going back to that question, I didn't have a mentor that kind of pushed me to do this. There's just something deep inside telling me that the possibilities could be endless.
Wow.
And if you look at the wealthiest people out there, the majority of them will park some form of money within real estate.
Yes.
Right? It's all about multiple streams of income. And, I think at that point, if you can build a lot of passive income, through earned income, passive income, portfolio income through real estate, these individuals then start to you can diversify. Maybe you can dabble into the stocks a bit. I myself personally don't dabble into stocks because I can't control it. But when you got, some money to play with and you're comfortable, well, you can do it. Real estate's tangible, it's insured.
Yep.
You can control it. The numbers are real. Stocks, it's another form of making money. However, for me, it's just that I don't have time to sit there and analyze these and call up the CEOs and ask for their income statements and balance sheets to really understand where how the company's going to do. I don't want to lose my money, within a drop of a hat. Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's a really good point, because like real estate it's really heavily focused on residual income and cash flow, kind of like passive income. So in a sense, you're kind of like building an empire in a sense. And yeah, I really like the fact that you had that mindset shift. I feel that that book was a big help in terms of how your direction went. So yeah, right? Am I wrong, or?
Yeah, it was I'm a hockey fan. It was a TSN turning point for me. My wife was sort of shocked. It was like, what are you doing? Like, I would legit, we get done eating opened the book, and I probably hadn't read that many pages in my lifetime,
Wow.
the first book. And I just sat there and
Okay, let's
listened to it.
let's
But
touch
anyway,
on,
yeah, what were we gonna say?
yeah, let's touch on that because that's a big thing as well for people, is reading a book. So now for people who, reading a book comes naturally to them, this could be a really good advice for them. They're going to read the book and hopefully their mindset's changed. Now, for the rest of the people out there that, they have the drive, they're intellectually smart, they have the grind. However, they just don't have the discipline to sit down and read the book. What kind of advice can you give to those people?
You know what I think is making that commitment. How, they say if your why doesn't make you cry, what
Mm,
will you do, right? So you gotta want it bad enough. I wanted it bad enough, and it was laser focus, right? And despite the challenges throughout this journey, because it's not a peachy ride throughout this journey, right? You'll be faced with a lot of different challenges, setbacks, and mindset. I got to a point earlier in my career or my journey here where I was feeling the pressure of everything, and just wasn't getting the results I wanted.
mm,
And my mentor was like, I'm like, I need to read a bit more about real estate. And my mentor he's very blunt about it with me, and that's how I like. I want straightforward sort of answers. Let's be real about this,
mm,
because no sense sugarcoating it. It doesn't do me any service for anyone. It boiled down to my personal development, and I had a moment of where I'm like, I got a couple investment properties. It's doing all right. I'll just stick with my career,
mm,
and just almost call it a day. So
mm.
he sat there and kind of walked me through it. And, he suggested, hey, listen to Jim Rohn, pick up these sort of books or audiobooks. I'll admit it's challenging for me to sit down. I have two boys. I still work full time because it gives me sort of mortgageability still. There's, I'm not tapped out yet. It's challenging to sit down and read a book at times, right? Because you still have your business to run, you're working full time, and I'm a dad with two kids.
Yeah.
So, thankfully my wife helps me out too, but it can be a lot. So to sit down and read a book all the time is challenging, but maximize your time.
Yeah.
Pick up your phone, put it on, download the audio book,
Mm,
and start listening to personal development. I find if you can put your mindset in the right place to understand that anything's possible and believe in yourself, go out there and conquer the world. I think, you know, now I look back at what I've done throughout my life with the family, like tangible stuff, intangible stuff. A lot of it was because I believed I made it, like I said it before, I made it my duty and an obligation to do what I wanted to do and get what I wanted to. And I've been able to achieve it. And I think, and that's the biggest thing I'm going to instill in my boys. It's what are you passionate about? What do you want to do in life? You can go do it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
mm.
Right. If you want it bad enough, but I think there's folks out there, they just don't want it bad enough.
Yeah.
So if you don't want it bad enough, go get all the education you want, read all the books you want. If you're not going to go out there and take action,
Right.
it's knowledge,
Right. It's
right?
it's kind of like
That's all it is just knowledge.
it's kind of like when you made that comparison with individuals who have been doing the numbers for years, but still haven't closed any deal, right? So it really is, it's like a fine line. It's like balancing, you know, getting that education, but as well, taking action regardless of, because like you said, there's no perfect deal out there, right? You walked into that house, it looked like trash. Um, and most people would not pick that up because of how it looked, but you ran your numbers, you trusted the education, and it worked out. So, there's really a balancing act, I feel, to getting enough education, but not too much to the point now that you are it's called analysis
Analysis paralysis.
analysis, yeah, that one,
Yeah.
wherein you don't want to buy this property because this book said this about that, but then this book said buy this, and there's just a lot of contradictory things now. So I guess how are you able to, because you're right, I do see a lot of people who do the numbers for years, have not pulled the trigger. How are you able to, break away from that and really say, hey, let's do this, and the numbers make sense? I know you had a mentor, but I guess for people watching, like, what advice can you give to them in order to balance that?
Um, I would have to go back to a mentor and a coach and your community. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, your mentor and your coach should be an individual that has done what you want to do and has been successful. Otherwise, why get the mentor, right? So like for me, the reason why I chose a mentor was I looked at, some individuals, and I chose one that I'm like, man, that's the kind of lifestyle I want, young, driven, successful. So we invested into a mentor. This mentor was kind of, that soundboard saying, go do it. Because otherwise, I think people become fearful. When it comes time to pull the trigger, people become fearful. And if you can trust in your education, the process, and, ultimately your mentor, they have your best interest in mind. So they will help you. Same with the coach, but you just got to get over it. And I think it's a big fear. And most people don't realize, I've put in offers without even looking at the place.
Yeah.
Just based on photos, ran some numbers. If you can get it under contract, have, the proper conditions in place where it's your exit strategy. So you get it under contract. So the numbers seem to make sense. Okay, well, get your contractor in. If you haven't been able to do that before, put in the offer, contractor comes in, solidifies your numbers a bit more. You have, just say an inspector go in, or you run some numbers on, you call some insurance companies. You start to, your numbers become real.
Yes.
As the deal progresses. And then you really know what it looks like. And then ultimately, inspection, if, you get financing in place.
Yes.
You're like, okay, now I can adjust my numbers. I know what, my interest rate's going to be. I got my amortization. You got everything in place. Now you know what your mortgage payment's going to be. And then you can call some insurance companies. So once you can lock it down, behind the scenes, you're working through the investment and your numbers become real. Have a couple conditions, or at least one condition to remove, and that's your safe zone.
Yes.
Most people, I think, just don't realize that. Just put in offers. That's all I got to say is put in offers, right? And it's you need that push. And I think for me, the community is a big thing too, because these are folks that are trained exactly how you've been trained, depending on which academy you go with or how you get trained. But if you're like-minded and been trained the same, your deal is going to make sense to them pretty darn quick, because they will know exactly what you're looking for, how you came to the numbers, and be able to put those numbers together. Sometimes they have the money. Sometimes you have the deal. Marry the two together, or vice versa.
Right.
Coach and mentor is instrumental in anyone's growth, right? And I think for me, where like I said, kind of got stuck at one point, and it was more of a personal development standpoint. He's like, set aside all the real estate stuff, all that. He's like, download or pick up the Ultimate Jim Rohn, which was a personal development book.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer for me too. It really is all about philosophy. And from there, it was, it shifted my mindset, opened it up a bit more. And ultimately, where I was stuck a bit too was I only learned one strategy when I first started. I enrolled into a rent to own, which, a lease option program, learned it, did it. But I was so focused on that. I'm like, deals are passing by. Like, how am I not identifying these? And it, became a bit of a challenge. And this is where, I talked to an instructor and like, maybe talk to a mentor and see what we can do here. And my mentor was like, first and foremost, you're trying to build an empire with one tool, one strategy.
I see.
He's like, ultimately, you need to learn a few more strategies so you can look at an opportunity and create multiple solutions to it
Mm.
via different strategies, right? So I just had one tool on my belt and I was trying to build an empire. And he's like, I love your ambition, I love your drive, you're taking action, but he's like, you're stuck because you only know how to do slice and dice one type of deal. He goes, you need to learn different avenues. And so sure enough, that's when I took it upon myself. I said, okay, you know what? I need to invest a bit more money. I ended up enrolling into a few different courses. Some, I wanted to learn how to creatively put a deal together. So I took some creative financing, how to go raise funds so I can do joint venture partnerships. I wanted to learn distressed properties because ultimately that's what we wanted to do, right? So, and then I was like, I need a mentor. I just want someone that's going to give me some guidance and support me along this way and be forever my partner, when I need help. And that was the biggest sort of turning point. So I learned the different strategies, and right from then and there, when we learned distress, we learned, hey, go pick up an ugly duckling somewhere, force appreciate it. Once it's renovated, get it rented so it's performing, go to the bank, get it refinanced. Then when you refinance it, we give the money back to our partners. So it increases their cash on cash, right? And we're still cash flowing on these. So
Yeah.
we've been able to pull out equity from our investment properties, give the money back to our money partners, which they're thrilled about. So now they can go back and do another deal with us or with others. And it puts their money back to work. And we ultimately are still cash flowing positively and doing very well on these investments without our own money. Because a lot of people become property collectors too, which is fine if that's your strategy. But me, it's all about how can I recycle that money? How can I pull it out? And that's by buying something distressed, force appreciating it, getting it performing, pulling money out,
Yeah,
and repeating it. And that's where our money partners, if you can do that with them,
then
for one, it instills confidence and trust. And they're going to be like, wow, we came in with, just say 70, 80, 90 grand for an initial investment, 3 to maybe 6 months later, depending on the size of the project, we got the majority of our initial investment back. We're still cash flowing. They're like, let's do this again.
yeah.
And we've done that with some Vancouver investors, right? And same with our Toronto investors, where they're like, this is phenomenal.
Mm.
So yeah, it's all about the rinse repeat, but you got to learn how to do it, and you got to have the right team. And like I said, the mentorship is to this day, I still, not that I rely every single day on it, but when I need help, whether it's mentally or physically with a strategy, they're there for you.
Wow. Yeah. And yeah, no, that's a really great point that you pointed out is you only had one tool to build an empire. Like imagine trying to build a house with just a hammer, right? So that's
Exactly.
that's a really good point that you made out. Now, it seemed that you started to learn the other tool, which is BRRRR, and of course, there's so many other tools, right? AFS, all these creative strategies. But I kind of want to touch on the BRRRR strategy for especially these kind of new real estate investors watching right now. Can you perhaps kind of break that down, the BRRRR strategy, and what that really entails for them?
Yeah. So for those that don't know what the acronym means,
Yeah.
it's basically you buy something distressed. It has to be distressed. Most people think it's just go out and buy anything. Then you're going to want to renovate it. So hence why it's distressed.
Yeah.
So you buy something you got to make money in the buy first and foremost to be able to have this work. So you go in, you got to renovate it and be mindful of your renovation costs, because you got to think of the appraisal side, right? If you're going to go in, buy something, if you're buying it retail, you're over renovating, it's not going to you're not going to get that money back, right? So yeah, you go in, you buy, you renovate it, then you want to rent it. So the banks, they're going to look at performance when you get it appraised. So you want to make sure you're, pretty diligent with your rental revenues, which, like I said, Rent Faster and different platforms can kind of give you an idea. Or if you have, other rentals within that area, or network with, folks that do, to understand what sort of revenues you can generate. And then what you're going to do is go refinance it. So you're going to get it appraised. And here's hoping, you ran your numbers accurately, get it appraised at the amount that you budgeted and forecasted. And then what you do is you repeat it. So it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat.
Yeah. Hence the BRRRR.
This helps people scale.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the acronym comes from, the BRRRR.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, that's a really good tool that we can share the audience, is the BRRRR strategy. Very popular method, and but still very still a very underutilized strategy, especially for beginners. Like I said, for beginners, when they look at a house, they look at a deal, they look at their bank account. They're like, how much money do I have? Right. And then they physically go to the property. I mean, which is good, right? But like you said before, you've made offers without even driving there, without even seeing the neighborhood, right? So it's just a mental hurdle that these beginners can have to, I guess, overcome. But yeah, like with everything you said and the strategies, like, I guess, what is the one most important thing for beginners to educate themselves on when it comes to real estate? Is it the financing? Is it the negotiation part? What is the most important part for beginners, you think? Or is it the mindset?
I would really, I don't think there's one specific, it's not one or the other. I think you need, like I said, I was pigeonholed in one strategy. You need a variety of strategies to really understand this.
Right.
Because it's learning to build the power team, because everyone thinks that you got to do it all. Your realtors, providing you can tell them what you're looking for, they can go find those deals for you if you want, right? There's other ways of doing it. Pick it up through wholesalers, or you can, drive for dollars, go find stuff, go on Kijiji, see for sale by owners. But it's building your power team is a big thing.
Yeah.
For the education, you need a couple strategies, because raising funds, like if you don't have money, like myself, I had to learn how to raise funds, how to put together a deal, how to structure a joint venture. So and put a deal creatively together. So creative financing, raising funds, and then just some of the strategies were, some instrumental stuff. But then on the back end, because we have our 3-tier corporation set up, I had to learn about, some of the, my building our accounting team, our bookkeepers. We have, our lawyers, and putting the 3-tier together and understanding that was a whole thing in itself, right? That I just was kind of blown away with, and it makes sense now, but I'm still not an expert in it, but I got my team to rely on, right? But the business fundamental side is it's another thing. But all I gotta say is just get started.
Yeah.
Get out there. Understand that you don't have to have the knowledge, you don't have to have the money to get into it.
Yeah.
Provided you have, some form of, if it's a credit card, and you can leverage, if you can leverage debt as good debt through investing in real estate and investing in yourself, that's how the wealthy gets wealthier, right? Wealth is built on debt. If you look at, the gurus out there.
Yeah.
Most of us think, growing up, it's credit cards are the devil.
Yeah, right.
It's not until you know how to leverage it.
Mm.
Do what the banks do. You can take a line of credit if your interest rate's 7%. Someone needs that money on a flip project, whether it's short-term, long-term, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you can go get a 14% return on investment on the bank's line of credit that they gave you for 7%, well, you doubled your money and it was never yours.
Yeah.
But it's a concept that's hard for people to really understand, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately it's 9:32. Is I guess
I got another call to hop on here, but I do appreciate this, and I think we could probably hop on another call at another point there too. There's there's tons to talk about. I think we could sit there.
Yeah.
I know when we met in Edmonton,
Yeah.
could go on for days, right?
Oh,
And obviously we're both passionate about this, and yeah, love the people in this industry. It's a very, it can be a very go-giver type mentality. And yeah, I love it. Can't say enough about it.
yeah, yeah, and I really wish we had more time to speak and really educate the audience here. But yeah, no, I think this was nice and direct, short and sweet. Lots of value here. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys checking out this episode. If you guys did find a lot of value here, you know what to do. Hit the like. For Mike, if you guys do want to reach out to Mike and kind of ask some questions. Um, I'll link down his, I guess, where do you want it, Mike? Facebook or
Facebook, I can drop you my email if folks want to reach out, pick my brain.
yeah.
More than happy, so I can provide that to you guys.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So again, Mike, I really, really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for the knowledge drop and all these knowledge bombs. And I know you have to run, but this was, I really do appreciate your valuable time here. But yeah, hopefully we'll connect again soon. And this was fun.
We will. All the best. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.